Okay, so the pros and cons of tournaments. Essentially, let's start with the pros. So the first is the security aspect. So when you're playing a tournament, you know exactly how much money you are going to lose, essentially. So if you buy in a tournament for $500 or you buy in for a tournament for $1,000, you're guaranteed to know that, this is the amount of money you're going to be spending. And this is good for a lot of players, especially if you have a lot of players with really difficult times like going to a casino and handling, their cash for a cash game. So all of a sudden, they bust out, they buy back in for another 300, bust out another 300, bust out another 300. If you make a commitment to play a tournament, you buy in, whether you win or lose, it's a little bit more secure. The second thing that's the great pro is the ROI. The return on the investment of a tournament are insane. I mean, not always, but for the most part they are. World Series of Poker, you buy in for $10K, you walk away, first place, $5 million. Even if you make a final table, the return on your investment is insane. So it's, in terms of poker, it's the one area where in a very short period of time, you can turn a little bit of money into an incredible amount of money. And for a lot of people, the ROI is essentially life-changing. So a lot of people, will buy into a $500 event and, come in maybe third or second or first and maybe make something like $20K or $30K, and that, pays off their mortgage on their house or whatever. I mean, it could essentially produce a large amount of money in a very short period of time. Third is the notoriety. I think it's really stupid, but if you win a tournament, people tend to know who you are. So you win a big World Series event or win a big online tournament, it tends to be associated with good players, although just winning one tournament isn't really indicative of anything. It's just indicative of winning one tournament. You just got lucky. But it does kind of lend itself to notoriety. So people will, know you if you win a tournament. And in cash games, you can go your whole life destroying cash games. Nobody know who the hell you are. So it's an interesting thing. Also is the feeling of winning or accomplishment. It's kind of nice to know that, I sat down with 3,000 other people and I came in first. Or I sat down with 400 people and I navigated the field and came in first. And it's rewarding. It's like I just beat out all these people. And there's something special about saying I won a tournament. And in a cash game, it's just this ongoing repetition. Where a tournament, it's like I won and I beat it. And finally, which the biggest thing about tournaments is I think tournaments are much easier to play. All right, they're much easier to play because with tournaments, there's certain junctions or certain parts of a tournament, like in that push-shove, 10 big blind stage, or right around the bubble, and there's certain points where the decisions are yes or no, all right? You're either making a right decision or incorrect decision. Like, no, you can't call there. It's all in or fold. And because the decision-making process is more defined, I think it's a lot easier to learn to play right and actually play right. So that's one of I think they're a lot easier to play than cash. I really do. I mean, there can be some arguments about that, but there's more clear yes and no decisions in a tournament than there are in cash games. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now, some of the cons. Number one, the one that I hate more than anything is the time investment. Tournaments, especially the bigger events, are huge time investments. You have to travel sometimes. You got to stay overnight, and you could play perfectly, get day one, day two. All of a sudden, day two, you make a great move, get busted. All right, down to half your stack size, you make another great move, you get busted, and all of a sudden you're gone. And you just wasted 3 days and made nothing for it. That's something that's a consideration. They're big time investments, especially if there's not the big good old-fashioned Sundays. I mean, online, a year ago, you could just hop on Sunday and play tons of tournaments. Just play like 10 relatively big buy-in tournaments on Sundays. We don't have that anymore. We don't have the luxury anymore. So we have to just, we're going to have to travel, and it's a big time investment. Second is also a big thing is you can't get up. You can't, if you're frustrated, if you're on tilt, if you're annoyed, if you're tired, if you can't focus, if you're throwing up in the bathroom, it doesn't matter. You can't leave the table. I mean, well, you could, but you get blinded out. You need to be there at that time. So it doesn't allow for changes in personality. It doesn't allow for temperament. It doesn't allow for just having a bad day. That sucks. For me, that sucks. So one of the things I noticed about myself is when I sat down at a table, I could be extremely focused and extremely good, or extremely unfocused and very bad, very bad. So one of the things I do is as soon as I lose focus, I get up and leave. In a tournament, I can't do this. I have to sit there and play. And some of these tournaments, World Series, 12 long days, long days. Another big problem is you can't play anytime. All right, cash games, you can go out, you can find your cash game anywhere you want, sit down and play it. With a tournament, you can't really do this. There's schedules, there's certain time periods when you can or cannot play. It's not like you can't just sign online unless you're in Europe. You can't just sign online and all of a sudden just find a game. I mean, it's kind of annoying. 4 is the structure. Now this is a big thing. Most tournament structures suck, especially the lower stake tournaments, right? And the lower stake, and sometimes, guys, you have to understand when I'm going to go over a video about this, but analyzing structure, some of these structures like 70-30s, you're insane for playing a tournament where you get $70 goes to the player pool and $30 goes to the house. That's insane. Those are not profitable over the long run. I don't care if you play with a bunch of monkeys, like people that don't even know how to play poker. It's terrible. It's not good. It's not good. So as the structures get better, a good structure is a lot of chips and a lot of time to play those chips. And unfortunately, most of the lower stake events don't have good structure. So it's one of the things. And the worse the structure, the more luck is a sort of a variable. Now, on the topic of luck, luck's a big thing in tournaments. I mean, some of these big tournaments, these big fields, you need to run well. I mean, listen, nobody's winning the World Series. No one's winning the main event without getting lucky. You play great poker. You play great aggressive poker. But at the same time, your coin flips need to go to your ways. You need to get a couple. You suck out here and there. I mean, you need to get lucky in order to penetrate these fields. I mean, there's a lot of players, and you really just luck is a big thing. And I know players who, they play perfect, make every move, and things just don't go their way. And it's very, very, very hard because it's such a time commitment. Because you spend so much time going out and playing that tournament, over and over and over again, you're getting smacked in the face by bad beats, even though you're making the right decision. It's rough. It's really, really, really rough. I think, what are some other cons? I think that's about it. I'm trying to think if there's any others. You could definitely let me know or post what you think pros and cons of tournaments. I'm just kind of thinking off my head. I don't really know all of them. I personally don't like tournaments. I'm a cash game player, except for sit and goes. I love sit and goes and cash games. But I'll do a pros and cons of cash games as well to try to kind of help you think about it. And when you decide, I always feel that it's good for a poker player to focus on cash games or tournaments, not both at the same time. Focus on cash and make the transition to tournament, or focus on tournaments and then make the transition to cash. Just pick one first. It's better to, I just really feel it's better in the long run because there's so many different things in each variation of poker, or not variation, but style of poker. So any questions or any other pros or cons, please add them. I'm kind of curious.